Hey, it's Busy Diva Views. I am back for another Fatal Attraction review. This is episode 15 of season 15, Sinful Secrets. Wow. Well, I like watching this crime drama because many times it's a cautionary tale of a lot of things that can go on in relationships gone wrong. It can help you notice red flags. It can just help you to be a little bit more aware, especially when you're out there in these dating streets, which I'm out here again being a widow. And, I like something nice to happen for me, but nowadays you got to really keep your eyes open because, we just may think you know someone and you just don't. You know, it brings me to this scripture that I ran that just came to mind after I watched this episode because I'm thinking, okay, what is the lesson in this episode? And the lesson that came is the heart of man is deceitful above all things and desperately wicked. It just tells me that no matter what, there are just some evil people in the world, and we have to keep our lives in order and, do the best we can as humans to, you know, see the red flags, stay prayerful and, just do what we can. But evil is just in this world and it just is what it is. And that seems to be the case for Miss Shakima Brown Jackson. Shakima Brown Jackson was a 28-year-old woman who was, by all accounts, she was just bubbly, life of the party. She loved God. She loved to read her Bible. She was very ambitious. She loved to help people, and one of the ways she thought she could help people was to go into law enforcement. She apparently prayed about it, and she said she was led of God to do it. She started out as a security guard, and worked real hard, studied, and passed her certifications, and she became a sheriff's deputy. And not long after this, she, of course, wanted someone in her life, and she just so happened to meet Jaquavia Bo Jackson. And in February of 2020, they got married. They first, of course, they met, fell in love, dated, seemed all happy, and then they got married. Then in the fall of 2020, they had a son. So they seem to have a really nice home life, nice thing going. They have the son. He's a truck driver, hard worker, working really hard. She's a sheriff's deputy, very well beloved in amongst her precinct. Everyone knew who she was and everything. Things are going well until the night of um, October 27th, 2021. In the city of Covington, Georgia, it's a town east of Atlanta. To give some perspective, if you've been in Atlanta, it's a pretty cool place. But nevertheless, on that night, her husband was waiting on a friend to come visit. A friend was going to visit him by the name of Ty McPherson. As he drove up, he sees Jaquavian in the outside, all panicky, all shook up, and he had a gun in his hand, and he was ranting and raving things to the effect of, he was trying to protect her, trying to protect his wife, and he knew something like this was going to happen. He's trying to protect her, just going on and on. And finally, the police were called. Police were called, and they came out, and they got in the house. They found Miss Shakima gone, deceased, with several gunshots um, in various parts of her body, mostly to her head and in her face, her just different places she was just hit. And in addition to her, there was another man laying on the ground, gone too. Before we get to thinking bad, no, that was her brother. Her brother, Lavoy, who was happened to be there as well. Apparently, it seemed that he was in the wrong place at the wrong time. And so when the cops, of course, the first person usually that they, question is usually a spouse or the person closest to the person who was deceased. So they get him down to the station, and he gives his account, and his account was that these two, there, of course, he had said there was these two street guys that came in the house and did this. But when they sat him down, smoke kind of cleared so he could tell his story. And so what he said happened was the her brother came over to visit with he wanted he his her brother, he was saying, was involved with some people who were involved with drugs, and that he owed some people some money. He supposedly owed a drug kingpin a lot of money. And so her brother wanted to bring these two friends of his, these two guys that are known around the way, and they want to discuss some work with him delivering, you know. So the story was Leroy, Shakima's brother, wanted to come over and talk to Jaquavia about them working with him. And the working with him involved him making some deliveries via his vehicle, via the truck that he drove. And with these deliveries, meaning possibly deliver some drugs to help him out with his debt that he owed to these drug kingpins or these street people that he owed money to. And so Jaquavia was saying he really didn't, want to do anything like that. And he wasn't comfortable with the two guys, that were, you know, talking to him. So he said, well, let me step away for a minute. So he said that he went into the room and got his piece with him and brought it. He said, but on his way back to the room, he heard Leroy, Shakima's brother, and the two guys discussing, these debt that he owed. And supposedly the conversation began to escalate. And, as he was around the corner listening, he said he heard the situation escalate. And then and he heard Shakima in there as well. And they were, arguing or what have you over this situation that her brother was in. Next thing you know, he said he heard gunshots. And he said when he got in there, he saw that she was down. He tried to shoot back at the other two guys who ran away, who ran off. And that was the story. As when officers got there, they did ballistic checks on the bullets when they removed them from the bodies and found out indeed that those bullets were different than the gun that he had on scene. So that wasn't the gun, and apparently, he didn't do it. So they were still, investigating further to find out who did this to this young woman. Why would someone just come in and do that? And so they were, about to hone in on the two guys. And so they did some checking around the neighborhood. But before that, well, actually, yeah, they did do some checking around the neighborhood to see who had surveillance cameras. The neighbors across the street said, his camera wasn't working. And but that Jaquavia did ask him about his camera at one point. He had asked him, he thought it was kind of strange that he asked him, was his camera working? And he told him no, that it was broken, it didn't work. But the officers thought, okay, that was strange that he would ask that. But nevertheless, his camera didn't have anything, but the other neighbor's camera did. And the camera, they showed the footage from that camera of you could see at the window, the flashes, from the gun, and you could hear the shots in the house. But what was missing on the footage were the two guys who supposedly did this. They ran the cameras and ran the cameras, and they never saw the two men that were those, apparently those drug dealer guys who were there, to supposedly question him, about using his truck. They were not in the film. They were not in any of the frames, and the police, got very suspicious about that. They also questioned Shakima's mother, and Shakima's mother, they questioned about, Shakima and her brother's involvement with drugs, and her mother was very, in addition to being distraught that she lost two kids, two young people, or adult children, but then to be told, they were into drugs, and she said no, she knew nothing about it. No one else, seemed to know anything about them being involved in any drugs, and she just was very adamant that no, they were never involved in drugs. They didn't do drugs. They, stayed, involved with their community and with their church, and they didn't do that kind of thing. And so the police also, thought that was suspicious, that, they had no involvement in drugs, with camera footage showing that there was nobody else coming in and out that house, and the flashes of light from the camera, from the gunshots, that led them back to the husband. And they brought him back in, you know, went back, for warrant for him. But not before Shakima's mother also mentioning that they did have problems in their marriage. And those problems involve money. And they involve money because Jaquavia her husband, had been laid off from his truck driving job. He had been laid off, and the burden of, the finances fell on Shakima. It was very difficult with her, supporting the whole family, which is her husband and their child. No help from him. He's not finding any jobs. He didn't say how hard he was looking, but it became difficult. And that's one of the things that can tear a marriage apart is money. When one spouse has to carry the load, especially if it's the woman. Because, I grew up where the man is supposed to be taking care of the household, but these days, both work, but when it falls on the woman, it takes on a whole different, dynamic. And, when you feel you should be taken care of, and now here you are, overworked, exhausted, and still got to come home and be wife and mom, and you're working extra to make ends meet where the other end is falling down. So, so the mother revealed that those were those were big problems in the marriage. But also, what arose was also revealed that dun, da, 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 a lady had come forward via a letter to Shakima that this lady demanded a paternity test from Jaquavia. And this lady, I was trying to find her name, Miss Destiny Burkett, she sent a letter demanding a paternity test. So apparently, Mr. Jaquavia was doing more than deliveries when he was driving trucks, as this woman became pregnant. And this lady claims, the police also wanted to talk to her, because sometimes there can be a jealous lover on the side and want the wife out of the way. And so they start to pursue her, to look for her, to question her. But Miss Burkett came in on her own, and she wanted to tell her side of the story. And her side was something I actually did learn something about from her side of the story. And that was that she had sought a paternity test. He apparently, you can do this by him going in, not everybody, but nevertheless, he did the paternity test and it came out negative. So Shakima was, of course, they say, happy that, okay, it came out negative. And but Jaquavia didn't want her to leave, and he, they said the usual stuff that men say, to get you back in their good graces. And part of the reason, because if she would have left him, she'd probably took the house, the kid, and everything, and put him out. And he had no job or no anything. He's living on her at this point. So he didn't want to leave. So, of course, he's going to make it up to her and, promise to do better and all that stuff. So she thought everything was all good until, this lady, Miss Burkett, would not let it go. She was very adamant that he was the father of her child because she said he was the only one she was ever involved with. And she also made it a point to say she had no idea he was married. A lot of times these guys can be, ringed up and married and just lie about it, don't tell you, or what have you. And, sometimes even if you ask, they can still lie about it. That's why these days you got to do background checks, which that's another story for another day and something I have done, in the past when I've dated. Background checks, can tell a lot, but, apparently that wasn't done. But nevertheless, he lied to the lady and told her, he wasn't married and all that. And now he's going to, deny the child. And she was very adamant that, yes, that was her child. She wouldn't let it go. So Ms. Shakima ended up getting another letter saying that this woman had retained her an attorney and she's going to pursue it further because she knew that that man was the father of her child. And come to find out, results showed he was the father of the child and that the test had been rigged. How did the test get rigged? Da, 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 da. Well, apparently the way they conduct those paternity tests, when the person go in, they not only take the DNA sample, but they take a picture. And apparently when all the tests and everything came in, all the results, the picture on the test did not match the picture of Mr. Jaquavia Brown. It was another person. So apparently he had a friend to go in and give the sample and do the test for him. Just put his name, but I guess he just didn't fail to realize that they were going to take a picture, and that picture just proved that, hey, this is what he did. And apparently he did not only that to her, but to another woman. But in the end, the other woman, it come to find out after the retesting and all that was done, he was not the father of the other woman's child, but he indeed was the father of Destiny Burkett's child. And the case was getting ready to go to court, and Miss Shakima was killed just the day before she was to appear because she was called as a witness in this DNA, this paternity suit that was being pushed forward. And she unfortunately lost her life the night before she was to go into court and be a witness on that paternity test. So the sad thing about it was, in the end, it turned out to be her husband that did this to try to cover her tracks. Now, in the beginning we said that the bullets did not match the gun he had, but it was found out that he actually used a different gun than the bullets that were in the body. He used a different gun than the one he had another gun than the one that was out there, that was that he had in his hand when he was all distraught, and and when the police were called. He had a different gun than the one he actually used to shoot them with. So he was finally eventually charged with her murder and the murder of her brother. And then of course he was found guilty of their murder, and he was sentenced to life without parole plus 10 years. I don't know how that works with the plus 10 years, but they want to just make sure that he never got out again, never saw an ounce of freedom or the light of day. And they also noted that he was just very calm and cold. He showed no remorse, no apologies, just was very just cold about it. I guess was that psychopath, sociopath. He was just, showed no emotion, no feelings. No feelings for just, getting rid of this beautiful soul and her brother. Two beautiful souls for what? Because you might get put out, just because you would be found out. You got caught up in your lies. You don't want to be held accountable for anything. So you take their life. I mean, it had to be that serious. I mean, like, you couldn't have found, if she had to put you out, you could have found somewhere to stay. I mean, you would take the mother away from your little son. Now the little boy has neither one of them because he's locked up and the mother is gone. So now the grandmother, her mother, is going to pick up the slack, as she said, and raise the child, which, is going to be very unfortunate because that child at that point was almost a year or two, and he'll never really know his mother and his dad if he have memories of it. All this for what? Just all for nothing. Unnecessary. Overkill. Literal overkill. I mean, it wasn't like he found her in bed with someone. It wasn't like she cheated or she did something to him, but because she was going to find out that he had done wrong to her, that he had cheated, that he was unfaithful, that he had fathered a child outside and would have to be held accountable for that child. That's where that scripture came to my mind. The heart of man is deceitful. I mean, he was just wicked. There are some people in this world that are just evil. And this man, who claimed to have loved her before and cared so much for her, darkness, Satan, whatever you want to call it, can just inhabit anyone, especially if they don't have, Christ in their life. They don't have God in them. The devil has room to get in there. And apparently he got into Jaquavius Bo Jackson, and now he is destroyed. Because now, even though he's still alive, he is not free. He will not see freedom ever again. He's from a young man to in his probably early 30s to now he's going to die there. If somebody doesn't take him out there, all for what? She'd leave, but then you're not going to have anything. Nothing now. So, that was really, a very sad story. And then on the other flip side of it, somebody asked, well, why is it the good die young? Why does bad things happen to good people? And, that's a very hard question to ask, because even I asked that question when my late husband was tragically killed. Why? But there's just evil in this world. We live in a fallen world that evil is just amongst us. And we just never know if or when it will pay us a visit. And, we pray, we hope, that it doesn't. But, that's why we have to keep our lives and our houses in order. And it seems like Miss Shakima and her brother, who love the Lord, who, dedicate their lives to helping people and being children of God, at least they had their lives in order, according to the story. And at least, she won't be there to raise her son, but, she can know that her son is in good hands and that she, is in the presence of God, her and her brother. They're not here, but, their spirits live on. And my condolences to her family. If they come across this video, my heart goes out to them. And, I pray that God gives them a peace, as the scripture says, a peace that passes all understanding. And so with this being said, we just have to carry on and live life to the fullest as she did. She worked really hard, worked to reach her goals and follow her dreams, and follow what she believed was the right thing for her to do, and did it to the fullest. And that's something we can all learn to do, because life is short. We don't know. And because it's short, just put our all into it. And that's what she seemed to have done with her life. Short as it was, she put her all into it. And we can all take note of that. Thank you. And I hope to see you guys again. And oh, please don't forget to give me that thumbs up. If you don't like it, thumbs down, let me know something. But thank you. Please like, subscribe, share the podcast. Throw any ideas in the comments if you think it's something I can do different or do better or talk about. I'm going to try to get in here and do better with talking about these stories more because they're so interesting to me. All right. See ya. Peace out.